All right, welcome to the Keep Fishkill Beautiful Meet the Candidates morning with our newly elected and newly re-elected candidates. It is such an honor to have you guys all here. I want to thank you for taking time out of your Sunday morning to join us. It's been a really hectic and I don't know the words to describe, but we live in interesting times, and so it has been an interesting election. Um, Keep Fishkill Beautiful had wanted to do a Q&A ahead of things, and we just couldn't pull it together in time because listen, if anybody wants to volunteer, this is my plug for volunteers. So I'm going to introduce our dignitaries right now. Let's start with Yvette Valdez-Smith, Minority Leader for Dutchess County Legislator, re-elected by a pretty wide margin. So congratulations, Yvette. How are you
Thank
doing this morning?
thank you so much. And thank you to Keep Fishkill Beautiful. But personally, thank you for everything that you always do for Fishkill. Your organization has been around for quite some time and really working for the people. So this is why we have a lot in common. We want what is best for our communities. So thank you, Keep Fishkill Beautiful, for everything that you all do and for having us on this morning. I am just newly reelected to my third term to serve our amazing community here in the town of Fishkill. And I also have Ward 4 in the city of Beacon. We just went from being in the minority to now being in the majority come January. So there's a lot of work ahead of us, and we are really excited to do it. So thank you for having us this morning.
Great, thank you, Yvette. Now let's say hi to Molly Rhodes, Dutchess County Legislator, District 18. Molly, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As Yvette said, it's great to be here and great to be part of Fishkill. I've been on the Beacon City Council for the past almost 4 years, 2 terms, and I'll be joining the Dutchess County Legislature for the first time in January with the majority that Yvette mentioned. And I'm just super excited to be able to represent not just the city of Beacon that I've been doing for the past 4 years, but also the town of Fishkill as well. And for those who don't know, the part of Fishkill that I represent is the part that's basically around the interchange between 9D and I-84, so just south and just north of that, what's called District 1 in the town of Fishkill.
Great, thank you, Molly. Don, you're the next one up on my screen. So Don, welcome. You've been on the Town of Fishkill board and you took a little bit of a hiatus and now you're,
No, no, he's
No,
new.
am I wrong?
no, that's not accurate. Right. No, I've never been on the board. This is my first time elected. I did run once before,
Okay, maybe that's
but
and
this is my first time elected. Yeah. Um, and really, as a newbie, I think what I want to spend a lot of time is listening. I want to hear what the residents of Fishkill's concerns are. What is it that we can do? And then work with the team and try to get it done. And that's
Let's
really
not
my
publish
plan.
this on the room. It's gonna be a mystery.
there we go. Um, Don, I apologize. And I definitely should have known that going on to this interview. So thank you. But I know probably because I've just seen you so much in so many civic activities and places.
That could be. Yes, we've run into each other numerous times in the last couple of years. So it's always great working with you and the team here.
Jackie, you were just reelected, so congratulations on your reelection back onto the town board.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very excited that I'll almost get a full 4 year. We're getting 3 years because of the New York State law changes, so I have to run again. Um, but I just want to thank you for inviting me. I'm glad I could be here this time, and thank you that you guys at Keep Fishkill Beautiful bring a lot of attention to important issues. And I think if it wasn't for you, a lot of stuff wouldn't get out there. So thank you for doing that and, bringing stuff to our attention that you think needs addressing. And that's what we're here for. We ran because we want to help our communities, and you guys give us an opportunity to address real hot topics. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. Yes, for those who don't know, Keep Fishkill Beautiful was started almost almost 20 years ago, and we have focused on basically protecting the community from overdevelopment, and we are tend to be viewed as like, loud and outspoken, which we are. And, but it has actually stopped. And I, none of us are paid and it's a lot of hard work, but I don't mind taking a little bit of credit where credit's due. And we did stop two developments. One was at Baxtertown Woods. This was so many years ago. It was actually the reason we started, and it would have been a huge apartment complex on the not on the corner, but like it on Baxtertown Road, backing up to Wheaton Avenue, clearing protected wetlands. I mean, it was a nightmare, and that was kind of what got us started. And I remember when we started, I had just moved into the community, and I was told, "This is what Fishkill does. They build. You're not going to be able to stop this." And the town and village came together, and it was stopped. And that kind of set the pattern for the next fight that we were involved in, which was a huge apartment complex, senior living, luxury facility. It was just bizarre, adult home, children home that was going to be started at the Church of the Nazarene property. So we were able to stop that with assistance from the town in that case. But it was definitely an uphill battle, and the citizens did a lot of work on that. And most recently, a fight we lost, but only sort of, was the corner of Jackson and Main. We tried very, very hard to stop that property from being built. There was a lot going into that. I'm not going to get into that right now, but the good news is what we were able to do was to stop them. And not to discount the work that was also done by our elected officials. We were able to stop them from getting tax-free, for us paying the taxes for that awful and obscene apartment complex that's going in. So at least we don't have the insult to injury for that. But we're going to talk about all these issues. The other thing I want to mention before we get started formally is that Keep Fishkill Beautiful is nonpartisan. This has been a huge point of contention for me because I feel like I'm constantly having to defend that. And if anyone on this call doesn't think that we are nonpartisan and we represent both Republicans and Democrats and everybody in Fishkill, speak now or for you. I'm assuming that you're here because you have heard us and you understand that and you accept that. And we have been put in some very partisan situations where we have followed our conscience and elected. Things happen behind the scenes, and we have never taken the bait, and I'm really proud of that. We're going to continue doing that. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to get to some of the questions that the community has had, and what I would like to do is actually offer anyone who is here who would like to ask questions of these newly elected officials to go ahead and do that. I have a list of my own questions that I am going to be asking that I have to pull up that were submitted to us over email, direct message, text, whatever. So let's start with the number one question, which was asked of us in multiple forms, and anyone here is welcome to answer it, was the issue of overdevelopment. So how will you ensure that development happens responsibly and doesn't compromise our town's character or strain our schools, our roads, our services? The community is suffering really from a lot of overdevelopment around the Hudson Valley. So if anybody wants to raise their hand and I can call on you, I guess. Yeah, Yvette.
Thank you, Karen. I come from a different perspective. So the county level is different than the town level and how we can approach and work towards these solutions. I want to say in full transparency, I have been lucky enough to work with town board person, Jackie Bardini and Don and our town supervisor, Ozzy Albra, on these issues for a long time. And in fact, I don't know if you remember, I was the first Duchess elected to sign on with the Church of the Nazarene project a long time ago.
Yes.
I've always been concerned as a parent, as a mom, as a teacher, and as our representative at the county level about overdevelopment.
Right.
I believe in smart, sustainable development, and we do need more housing around Fishkill, but not at the cost to hurting our infrastructure, which roads, sewers, our water. There's been issues that luckily now we have electeds that really, really have their eye on the ball about these. Molly, legislator-elect Rhodes and I have a meeting set up already with Town Supervisor Albra, and we're going to be discussing how we can assist at the county level to make sure that overdevelopment is not something that is going to rear its ugly head here in our beloved community. We have resources we have to protect, and that includes our schools, our infrastructure, our roads. There's so much to literally keep Fishkill beautiful, right? But it does take this team effort, and that's why we're actually meeting this coming week. We want to start even before before legislator-elect Rhodes is even sworn in January. We need to be looking at this plan to make sure that we are protecting Fishkill.
Thank you, Yvette. And I want to say something that Ozzy said once that always I carry it in my heart every time I'm doing this kind of advocacy work. But I was at a town board meeting and I don't know if a developer was there. There was some pitch to put up some kind of development. And Ozzy was like, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're trying to develop in Fishkill, you're going to have a problem. And it was just like, oh my God, like he's preempting like the fact that the people don't want this. So that makes my job so much easier, a job that quite honestly I don't want to do. Right. Like I wouldn't like, so I was like, thank God they know it's a red flag. They're going to say, I'm going to waste my time and my money. So I appreciated that. Jackie, your hand was also up.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute. I think we were both trying to unmute me. So yeah, Ozzy's been really good with that, but he's had a lot of help with, you people, community, also me on the town board. We've we've been sued so many times. Like take for instance the Rolling Hills development. That went away because we fought it, and we were honest with them from the beginning that the community, did not want it. So guess what's happening now? A person bought it and is building as of right. So zoning, if we enforce our zoning, we, don't have a lot of these problems. And maybe in some instances we need to change our zoning. But right now, enforcing zoning, I think, is a great way to maintain our quality of life, the beauty of the community, the nature and character of the community. And we take that really seriously, and I'm glad that you were pleased, with something Ozzy did, because I know a lot of people have arguments with Ozzy, but I can tell you, as being on the town board, I have fought very hard and made sure that we have a voice. And part of the zoning, like take for instance what happened in the village with Jackson Street, that was a zoning issue.
Yep.
That was administration on the last day changing the zoning law so that they could develop Jackson Street. So it's not also just zoning; it's also who are you electing as your official. What's their track record? And I think if we look at people's track records, we have an idea that a Democratic administration has been more responsible, regarding development. And again, as Yvette said, we're not against development. We would like to see smart development. We would like to see people develop things that coincide with the history and the nature of the community. So when people say, "Oh, we're against development," no, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I appreciate all the times that Ozzy and I'm deliberately, you're not going to hear me say all Republicans or all Democrats, right? So I will talk about the individuals who have done the right things, and Ozzy has absolutely done the right thing. And I mean, you're talking to someone who I used it as part of my try to hide some of my garbage over there. But, my dad was like a big Republican in New Jersey, and he was a hiker and an outdoorsman and and an activist. And so those things are not always mutually exclusive. I do understand though, and this is part of the reason why I try to avoid the label of Keep Fishkill Beautiful being like liberal and progressive. I mean, it's, but anyway, but the point is well made, right? The right decisions have been made by the electeds. Ozzy made a much different decision than Mayor Miccio over in the village of Fishkill to change that zoning. And that is a whole rabbit hole we're not going to go down today because that would be another hour-long Zoom. But I'm happy to talk to anybody about that at another time. But anyway, so let's go on to the next question. Traffic and safety. What concrete steps, and Don, you haven't had a chance to, Molly, what concrete steps would you take to address traffic flow and pedestrian safety in the coming year? And now, because we're talking about Fishkill, whoever can speak to Route 52 and the traffic and the lights, that is just a complete and utter chaos. Yvette, go ahead.
Sorry, it's just because we just had I have a very timely answer to this. I just co-sponsored a resolution up at the county on last month's agenda with Commissioner Bob Balkind. He is the Department of Public Works for Dutchess County government. And what we did is there's a whole plan for Jackson Street, and county funds are being used to improve that road and infrastructure, add sidewalks and safety measures. Because if any of you have been down Jackson Street, it's incredibly dangerous for our children, for our seniors, and we should be providing more ways for all of us to be able to walk around Fishkill safely.
Yeah.
So that's just a quick piece I wanted to interject before others answer this question. But there's things that, on the county side, Legislator-elect Rhodes and I will be making asks, just like this happened for Jackson Street last month, for our county roads, because that's the only, thing that we oversee is county roads, the safety of our county roads and how that impacts traffic and safety, public safety around our community.
What I want to also mention that a lot of people don't know, and this is hopefully an opportunity to educate you, there are issues that are addressed at different levels of government, right? Like the traffic on 52 is sometimes it's a statewide issue, sometimes it's a county issue, sometimes it is a local, town issue. So yes, I appreciate that. Is there anything anybody else wanted to add in regard to plans for the future and traffic and how things will be handled? Don.
I know there was a talk about a study on the 9D corridor to look at the traffic from the City of Beacon line to the village of Wappingers line. I'm wondering what the status of that is, and something when I'm out campaigning, that was my district. I live close to Molly's district, right off of 9D, and that's everybody's concern down here, is just how you can't make a left-hand turn onto 9D anywhere. And that's causing more problems as people are trying to turn around, and all kinds of crazy things are happening. So yeah, we need to look at that whole corridor and see what can be done. I know there's talk at the state level about the interchange at 9D and 84. I'd like to know what the status of that is. So yeah, there's a lot, I think, that needs to be looked at, studied, and figure out where we can go from there.
I just want to add to that, Don. We have, been working with DOT, and when you work with DOT, you have to get in line and wait for them to come to the order of what they're working on. And one of the things that they have suggested is to make that an only right turn only. And, then everything would become circular and you would never have to make a left turn, hand turn. And that would keep traffic moving. That would alleviate some of the back congestion that goes down into Fishkill and into Beacon, during, rush hour when people getting off the trains. That's an issue too. But my experience with the DOT is, yeah, we want to do that, but you have to wait your turn. So it is on the radar, and we could certainly see if we can push them more.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm glad you shared that. Let's see, what's next? What about, hold on, sorry about this. I just lost my questions. Okay. Um, the Jackson Street development. Does anyone have an update? And I want to again preempt this that the Jackson Street property is not the responsibility of the town. That is a village thing. But y'all kind of know each other a little bit, I would figure. Like, does anyone have any kind of update on that?
No.
I was so curious because after they did not get their permission to I'm assuming the tax exempt thing was something they were really counting on in order to be able to start building. Um, but
I
they
will.
didn't get it. So yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I will bring that up with our administration in Fishkill. Um, we sent a letter to the commission that oversees those tax exemptions, and I think they kind of, maybe they listen to the community for once because it's not a type of project that deserves tax exemption by any stretch of the imagination. Um, so.
And I will say I want to make this very clear that I'm aware that the elected village officials did do that as well. So I was very happy to see that and grateful. There was a mistake in letting that even get as far as it did in the rezoning, but at least they did the right thing and who knows how long this could, truly hold it off. So yes, okay. So the other issue that's been kind of cropping up has been um, you know the one I'm talking about, the mall, the old Duchess Mall. Okay, that uh we Keep Fishkill Beautiful had raised not raised the alarm bells about that, but we were getting a lot of comments about it, and we were over the summer, and we were like, well, it's time to maybe come out from retirement every few years when there's something going on that we can raise awareness about. And while it is vastly improved, it is still, in my opinion, unsafe. There are still trees growing out through the ceiling in it. Honestly, I was asking for a fence. I mean, and we were, I felt like that was a reasonable request. I think somebody on the town board had mentioned like, we'll put lights up at night because people were afraid with safety issues. And I'm like, I don't want lights shining on that, so everybody could see it at night. But at least that's one time you don't have to look at it. So, is there any discussion with the owner about putting up a fence until the time that they are ready to, some new owner has it and quite honestly probably just knocks it to the ground?
Oh, I'm unmuted. I know that we have asked for that. I don't think that's something that he's up to doing.
Yeah.
We can ask again, I'll put that in my notes.
Well,
Um, I know that it looks like there's going to be some kind of project moving through sooner than later, so that we can stop looking at that. I saw that he did do some improvements, is boarded up now. But I understand why it takes so long for people, like even that smart storage development. They had to take away 5 dumpsters of stuff, and I said to the guy at the last meeting, "You don't have eyes. You don't see all the garbage there."
yeah.
And finally, we got to a point where we said, "We're going to fine you if you don't do
Good. Thank
something."
God. So that
And
finally
that's what
happened.
happened.
I
Did you
knew it.
see how it looks?
Yes.
So, we took the step back because he did finally comply.
Thank God.
But I think it's kind of the same story. I'm sorry, I have a dog on my lap here. He came to the meeting with me. It's kind of the same story there. I think he's made some efforts to try to enclose it a little more, and
Well, it's
um,
definitely improved. I will say that. And that was one of the most obvious requests. Like we have to start, like I couldn't let my property get to that and not expect to be fined. So I'm
yeah.
very glad that that finally happened. So there's another question popping up. and I knew this would pop up. So you mentioned something in the works. And so we have is the upcoming project, something of a cultural or historical nature, something we can be proud of. Now, before you even answer, I want to say that we have been, again, like to anybody who's asking, there are all kinds of suggestions floating around. It should be an ice rink. It should be a community space. It should be a open, a wetland, forest or whatever. We don't own it. And what it's zoned for is what it's zoned for. Like, but out of curiosity, do you happen to know what that is? I mean, is it a warehouse? Is it a storage space? Is it something we can be proud of?
I think I'd have to check my notes on this, but I think it is going to be a warehouse
Yeah,
type thing. Yeah.
that's too bad. I mean, yeah, Ava, go ahead.
I really have to interject here because it's through Keep Fishkill Beautiful's advocacy and other community members as well, advocacy, that um, this is even something we're talking about. And I really appreciate Town Supervisor Albra and the town board for listening. When people come to them about these issues, they listen about it. On the county level, we went in with Dutchess Community College and took that other piece closer to the highway. And now we have a mechatronics lab, right? That the county was so, we were so proud to help fund. But things like this can be done in these spaces. But if we don't talk about them, and if your electeds are not listening about what could possibly happen and how it should be changed, then we're lost. And I think that goes back to something that Jackie said about who is sitting at the table, who is elected and listening to our community members. So it's so important. And even though it is owned, see that this is our problem, right? Duchess Mall that's crumbling into itself, it has a private owner. This is not our, if it was ours, things would be happening and happening quickly. But obviously we're up against that piece. But I do feel confident that with your organization and the electeds that we have, there will be movement, and there will be movement hopefully very, very soon.
And I want to say that one of my kids goes to that Megatronics lab. He is in Dutchess Community College, and I drop him off there 3 times a week, and he is taking those classes. So it has, it's been a success as far as my family is concerned.
It's amazing inside.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand mechatronics. I'm not going to pretend I understand what they're really doing in there, but it's really exciting. Students are excited. And remember, that space was just empty too, and kind of crumbling into itself. So really great things can happen. This is something that also that owner hopefully will do something. I know we need warehouses, but
do we? Okay. Anyway, but it's
there are better things that we could be doing with this space. So hopefully that
if I had the money, yeah, exactly, it would be a different story. Okay.
Yeah, especially historical stuff.
Oh my God, yeah. A question. Okay, so this was another question posed. And this is really important because it also came up at the last Keep Fishkill Beautiful tailgate talk that we did in collaboration with the town of the highway department, with the food pantry. There are members of our community who are afraid to, and whose cupboards are going empty because they are afraid to show up. So what steps can the town take to reassure that local services are safe and accessible to everyone, regardless of immigration status? And this hits me close to home because people may not realize that there are these things happening. It is absolutely a Fishkill issue. It's a Newburgh issue. It's a Beacon issue. We could talk about Fishkill. So what can you do to kind of let people know, listen, if you're hungry, go to the kitchen. If your kids need food, get support. It's available. It's there. We live in the Hudson Valley, which is nothing but fresh fruit and vegetables and everything. So I want some reassurance that, they will be safe, or if you can give that.
I have 2 pieces coming from the county. I met with County Executive Sue Serino last week to push for emergency funding for SNAP. We pushed out $150,000 directly from the county straight into Dutchess Outreach. Dutchess Outreach then puts that money into the different food pantries, including Fishkill Food Pantry. So different food pantries throughout the county. There's that piece. That's a separate piece from the fact that I check in weekly with District Attorney Anthony Parisi. I'm constantly asking whether or not they're collaborating with ICE throughout the county, because community members, my neighbors, my constituents ask directly, and they are very, very concerned. We can't have people, families, seniors being worried about ICE and going hungry. These two things are not mutually exclusive. And this is not, in my opinion, at all what Fishkill stands for. I don't care what your party is, whether you're an independent, Republican, Democrat. We care about one another here in Fishkill. And so the safety of everybody, whether it's food insecurity or whether it's immigration raids, for crying out loud, matter. So it's that open communication. That's on our agenda also to discuss with the town supervisor, just so that I think having open communication is the way to go here. I also reach out to the sheriff's department, Kirk and Parati, because it's the sheriff's department, right, who would collaborate with ICE. And they are not at this point. But it is a weekly check-in to make sure that that's not happening, because things have been changing very quickly under this new federal administration, and not always for the safety at all of our community members.
Right.
And even though we are local electeds, there's a lot that we can do and that we should advocate for. So that's where I stand on that. And that is where the county's trying to help, especially with food access. And then that is how I have been handling ICE as a county representative.
Thank you. And I again, this came up at our tailgate talk in regard to this, the government shutdown and the pulling of SNAP benefits from hungry, like you said, seniors, veterans, children. I mean, and I do the meal deliveries, so I see that is exactly who is receiving these meals. Molly, Jackie, Don, do you guys have anything that you want to add in regard to concerns from our immigrant community members? Don, yes.
I just reiterate what Yvette said. I mean, our law enforcement should be here to protect our residents.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, and making sure that everybody feels safe in their community. Should be able to walk the streets. You should be able to go to your food bank. You should be able to go to your place of worship and not be fearful. And I think that's something we really have to reinforce throughout the town, throughout the county. Thank you.
And it's important. I mean, I come from a family, my last name's Finnegan, so half my family, I have priests and I have police, right? And, I've had a lot of heart-to-heart talks with actually one of my favorite cousin, Johnny, who is a cop, and he's married to a Hispanic social worker. And so it is not always, you have to understand that a lot of our police officers are equally concerned about the communities. And so supporting them is really important too. Molly.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Karen. I think along the same note, too, that I remember seeing this particularly in articles right before Trump took office, that a lot of our local sheriffs and police chiefs were saying that actually this partnering with ICE makes them less effective at their jobs. So they were hesitant about it, too. And yes, as many people probably know, if not everyone on this call, we have had ICE in our communities. That is the reality that we're living in. And yet, so far, as Yvette said, we're constantly checking in, but so far we have not seen the kind of collaboration that really puts our community members at harm between our local law enforcement professionals and with what the policies that are being enacted at the federal level. And so we do need to keep vigilant, keep an eye on that. And so far, just as we've been talking about, that we haven't seen a benefit to our community, or frankly, a benefit towards keeping us safe. This is not actually helping our law enforcement professionals do the job that they want to do.
Thank you.
I'd like to add also, we have a new police chief in Fishkill, and I think he's going to be very good, and I would like to discuss this issue with him to see, how they plan to act or react. I'd also like to add to the community, and I know, Don, you're really good at this, get out there and protest. It's your First Amendment right to make redresses to your government. And if you think it's not effective, well, look what happened November 4th. Okay, look what happened November 4th. That is a big sign that what we're saying and doing is effective. So don't sit it out. It's going to get worse if we don't continue to protest, if we don't work with our local police and make sure that they're doing the job that we put them there for as well. And Yvette, I want to be at that meeting with Ozzy, so I hope that I can. And that's something we need to bring up with our police chief to see where do they stand. I know they will tell us if they have a legal warrant that they would have to, abide by a legal warrant. But this stuff about pulling people off the street,
Which
it's
is happening.
it's
Like
still it's not lawful.
yeah.
So, we have to come together as a community to say, how do we address this? And as far as food pantry, I remember one time, my last stint on the board, we did have people just do a drive up to the police station and we loaded their cars. Doing it that way, may make people feel a little safer to come, they don't have to get out of the car. They don't get an ICE agent, get a good look at who's in the car. So that might make it, safer and we could work with, the food pantry people, especially Eddie Colon is so involved with that, and he's really an upstanding member of our community that we work with.
I honestly, Jackie, I so appreciate that because that is absolutely something that I think would work, and it probably could build some real trust between different members of the community, seeing that the police, are aware and addressing and handling it, and the same with our elected officials. So I honestly love that idea. So if you guys need any help with that, Keep Fishkill Beautiful would love to assist. All right, almost last question. The last question has to do with divisiveness on the town board. The tensions within the town board have been a major concern, and this is from me personally. Like I have seen some crazy stuff happen on our town board meetings. What will you do to restore civility, respect, and professionalism in how our board conducts business, both online and in public meetings? And this really is a question, for our town supervisor, because I've seen him be incredibly rude, and I will give him credit where credit is due, where he has done some good work and made the right decisions. But I am not alone in this. I have seen him cause more trouble than there needs to be among members of the community and also members of different political parties. So how can we, or how do you plan to rebuild trust among residents who have grown frustrated or disillusioned by the tone and behavior of local government?
I have brought this up, with, I call it playing nice in the sandbox. Because I think sometimes you need to bring things down to a lower level and people really take a look at what not only other people are doing, but what they're doing themselves. And now I know I've been guilty of this myself, that there's things I've done and I don't realize I'm doing it. So I want people to know that I have brought this up. I think as a whole, the board, like recently, it hasn't been as contentious as it's been in the past, but I know exactly what you're talking about. One thing Supervisor Lacoli used to do was read a statement, especially before public comments, and this is what we expect you to do, and this is how we need to be civil with each other. Maybe we need to get back to doing that again. Um, but I think the maturity of your elected officials, it has to come from them.
Yeah.
You know, we could bring it to their attention all we want, but we look at what's happening on the national level, and I think that's carrying over to local levels that think this is, Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Crockett. I don't think we need to be that contentious with each other. I believe we're there to get a job done, not to fight with each other about personal things. We can fight with each other about policy, and that's what we're there for. But I understand your concern, and it is something I've brought up. I thought it was getting a little better, but tell me what you think, because sometimes sitting there at the table, you don't see what people see on TV. And I'm
Honest,
open to doing whatever I can to address that.
Thank you, Jackie. Honestly, I think it's very refreshing to hear that you at least acknowledge that it's a problem, right? If there was a denial, then that's more like gaslighting, and I feel like that cooler heads will prevail. And the person who posed this question, which I also added my little spin on it because I felt the same way. It's not just at the meetings, right? It's also the behavior online that we see. That's really kind of gross sometimes. And not anybody specific in this case, but definitely, I think that you're right. It comes from, the top levels of government, and this whole crazy thing with name calling and making nicknames for people. It's bizarre. So anyway, thank you for acknowledging that. So now I want to open it up and just have like a closing statement from each of you, if that's okay. Um, to have one last thing that if you want to add, or if you one thing you want to say. And so I'm just going to go by who's on my screen. And so Don, you're the first one I'm looking at on my screen.
Uh, Thank you, Karen. Thank you for hosting this today and giving us all the opportunity to speak. Um, I'm still stuck on the civility thing that we just talked about, and I can assure you, that's just not who I am. That's not the part of it. Discussions like that should be taking place at the board meetings. They shouldn't be through social media. That's just not the place for two politicians to be debating. That's not where it should happen. We have to bring it back to the table. Bring it out, bring it open. If you can't say it to my face, then don't bother saying it. It's my kind of the way I feel. So I think we're going to see that. And I'm looking forward to representing everybody in Fishkill. I'm looking forward to hearing your concerns and how we can address them. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you, Don. Molly, your thoughts.
Thank you, Karen. As Don said, thank you so much for this time. I think, first of all, just an issue that we didn't have a time to talk about directly today. We talked about traffic concerns, particularly the part of Fishkill I represent, kind of around the intersection of 90 and I-84. And I'm also thinking about other access, about pedestrian access, about access to public transportation and buses, that it's not safe right now. And so, as Jackie said, this is a state road. And so we have to work with our state partners and advocate and lobby our state partners for what is possible. But that's definitely an issue that I want to work also with Supervisor Albra to get done. And going to this idea of civility, one thing I read recently that really resonated with me was that our current government reality is that individual citizens only tend to get engaged in opposition to something. So we've already created this idea that have to be opposing local government, that like you're in battle together, local residents and local government. And so, which all the great work that you've been doing, Karen, with Keep Fishkill Beautiful. And so what are other ways that we can engage people to come forward and create ideas? What is the possibility of the future? Maybe as you said, we don't own the old Duchess Mall, so we can't do that directly, but still, what are ideas that maybe they don't end up there, but they end up somewhere else in Fishkill? And so what are more opportunities that the government can create for people to come together and share positive, forward-looking ideas about the future of Fishkill that aren't just in reaction to particular projects that they have issues with?
Thank you, Molly. Quick question for you. I've seen a lot of sidewalks going up, and I love it. As somebody who has an awful lot of kids and who use those sidewalks a lot, but had to cross over 52 if they wanted to go to the library or something. Is that something that we can hope for a little bit more of?
Yeah. I think they're, you may or may not know this, but sidewalks are very expensive. And so I think it's
Yeah.
something like along Route 52, the part that goes into Beacon, that is, we managed to secure federal money, but a long time ago for that. And
Okay.
so, we have to kind of work with our federal government sometimes. So even if that's not an option with the current administration, there might be a future option or even an option within this administration to do that. And so how are we? We talked about in the county level, we have a fantastic planning board or planning commission, a planning department within the county level. So we can be building towards these projects to say, this is what we want. This is a priority community. And then how can we gather the funding to make that happen? So, and I know the village of Fishkill has put in those great crossing things, I think have made a real difference for
Yes.
people feeling safer. And so there's definitely funding out there for it. It does not all have to fall on local taxpayers to fund everything, because that can be quite a burden. And so what are ways that across Dutchess that we can make this happen?
Yes, so shout out to Kathy Martin for getting those lights put in, which are truly lifesavers. And to reiterate that, we all love our low taxes. There's low taxes here in Fishkill for sure, but there are certain things that the taxes have to sometimes pay for, these sidewalks. Like I saw a post like, are you the other day, I am okay with my taxes feeding someone else's child. Like that's literally why I want my taxes. So you can't always have your cake and eat it too. You can't have all these wonderful systems and low taxes. And so I don't envy the balancing act that some of you all have to manage. All right. Yvette. Uh-oh.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for having us today. And thank you, Keep Fishkill Beautiful, for everything that you do. I have to say, this conversation reminds me of a lot of things that we have all been striving for to make Fishkill the best place to raise our kids, to live, to retire, to work. And I'm really excited to be able to work in collaboration with these fellow newly elected and also Jackie again, because there's a lot for us to continue to do. But for me, I think one of the hallmarks and cornerstones of good government is total transparency. And that transparency and communication with our community, we can't, there's no way to do less of it. I want us to do more of it. So the tailgate talks. I personally have always held open office hours where community members, anybody, can just come in and I'll say, hey, I'll be at I-84 Diner. I'll be at, down at this coffee shop. Meet me, I do it at Tracks a lot too in Beacon. Come meet me there, and we'll sit and talk. Just the openness of being able to communicate with your electeds and sharing your concerns, sharing your ideas. I think that's also our path forward. And you all are doing that a lot at Keep Fishkill Beautiful. I want us to all be invited again to have conversations like this, to also show up at your tailgates. I know that's new, but I think it's an amazing tool to be able to really engage with our community members. And us going forward, there's a lot of work to do, but I know that we're all really committed to our area, and this is what we're here to do. And we're all ready to serve Fishkill again on day one.
Thank you. Thank you, Yvette. Great. And obviously more than welcome. And we're hoping to do more of these little Sunday Zoom meetings, which I will try to get it working on Facebook, but it might be Zoom, like I just said. And thank you for your availability to this. I appreciate it. And finally, Jackie.
Again, thank you for inviting us. This has been a really good forum for us to talk about what some of our goals are. I was just thinking while we are talking about this, how to get people more involved. How they have coffee with cops. Well, along the same thing of what Yvette is saying, that maybe that's something we need as elected officials to have office hours. Certainly, if you don't know this, there's a way to, message us at the town of Fishkill through the website, to call the town. And, certainly I've given people my personal cell number that if they have something to talk about, we can do that. That's why we're here, I believe. That's why everybody on this call got into local government, because we care. just try to get more people involved in their local government, to not be afraid. There have been so many people that have been sued by a developer or a lawyer for coming to speak at town board meetings. And, it's illegal to tell somebody they can't say what they want to say. And there's also something called anti-slap, when someone slaps you with a suit. In New York State, there's called a anti-slap law. And that's gives people who are exercising their rights the ability to, stick it back at the other person who's trying to take away their rights. So people, don't be afraid to come to town board meetings. Stop with Facebook is a great place to talk about stuff, but it's also easy to disparage somebody when you don't have to look them in the eye and see them as a person. And we are all clearly people who care here. And we want to talk with people. We don't want to see ugly remarks online. That doesn't do anything for the community. So, just trying, we want to keep history going. We have our 250th anniversary coming. There's some great stuff that's going to be going on in the town for that. There was something else. Oh yeah, we tried to address that crossing light issue in Merritt, and we did, do that. Maybe that's something that we can address in other parts of the town, with one of those lights and crosswalks. Remind people, the people on the street have the right of way. If you see somebody approaching a crosswalk, you should stop. You're supposed to stop legally. So that's something else. And maybe we need, seniors will probably remember this more than anything. There was a program called Women's Auxiliary during World War II, or WAC, they called it. Maybe we need little, like we have in like young Republicans and young Democrats in the parties. Maybe we need to have, young people of Fishkill or senior people of Fishkill, to come together and voice their concerns, a lot like you're doing with Keep Fishkill Beautiful. Just some thoughts I've had. Again, thank you. Appreciate being here. Appreciate Keep Fishkill Beautiful. I appreciate you guys who ran with us this year. Let's keep the faith.
Well, thank you all so much, and huge congratulations. I know how hard it is well, actually, I don't know, but I mean, I can imagine and how hard it is to campaign, to put your face out there, to put your name out there. I know it's not always pretty. I think that people do make assumptions about elected officials, and sometimes those assumptions are wrong, and we have to remember that everybody on this call is a community member. You have a vested interest in protecting our open space and our zoning laws, because you live here. And now we, the community of Fishkill, are trusting you, and you have our trust to be able to do the right thing going forward. So I look forward to working with all of you, and to hopefully having a few more of these calls where we can get some information out to our community members. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Karen.
you, Karen.
Thanks, everybody.